You think being a space marine means glory. It doesn't. It means waking up every day and forgetting who you were before they turned you into this. 300 years of killing, and you can't even remember your own name. They call it service. You call it nothing, because you've been trained not to feel anything at all. So what happens when you finally start to remember? I have forgotten what it feels like to be hungry. Not the gnawing edge of battlefield deprivation or the calculated fasting before ritual combat, but the simple human ache of wanting food because your body asks for it. I know I once understood this. There was a boy, long ago, who scraped marrow from bones in the underhive warrens of Absalom Prime, who sucked moisture from moss growing in corroded pipes, who learned to distinguish between 5 kinds of mold by taste alone. That boy had a name that was not kale. That boy knew hunger as a companion, not a strategic concern. I cannot recall his face anymore. The apothecaries tell me this is normal. They say the gene seed integration smooths away such weaknesses, that the psycho-indoctrination and hypnotic conditioning replace frivolous memory with tactical data, scripture, and the litanies of our chapter. They say this as though it is mercy. Perhaps it is. I do not know anymore. I have served the angels penitent for 347 Terran years, and I can recite every verse of the Catechism of Chains, can strip and reassemble a bolter in 17 seconds while reciting the rites of maintenance, can calculate firing solutions for orbital bombardment in my head while my hearts beat at 200 cycles per minute. But I cannot remember my mother's voice. The chapter tells us we are elevated beyond such concerns. We are angels of death, instruments of the Emperor's will, living weapons forged in pain and tempered in faith. The Imperium paints us on propaganda posters, golden warriors descending from the heavens to save the faithful, and annihilate the heretic. Children are taught our names in scholar lessons, told we are heroes who never falter, never doubt, never bleed without purpose. The truth is smaller and stranger than that, and infinitely more terrible. We live in silence. The fortress monastery of Penitence Vigil orbits a dead world whose name was burned from imperial records 12,000 years ago. Its halls are carved from asteroids welded together over millennia, corridors wide enough to accommodate our armored bulk, but narrow enough to feel like veins in some vast dead thing. The walls are bare stone, unadorned save for the chains that hang in every junction, in every chamber. Chains that represent the weight of our sins and the sins of humanity. Chains we are meant to carry without question until death releases us. We do not speak unless ritual demands it. We do not gather for companionship. We do not sing or laugh or argue philosophy in the quiet hours. The silence is our second skin, our constant companion, the water we swim through without noticing until you realize you have been drowning in it for centuries. I wake each day to the same sequence. The restraints release from my sarcophagus with a hydraulic hiss that echoes in the cell, a sound I have heard 43,000 times, give or take a few hundred. My body responds before my mind fully engages, muscle memory lifting me upright as my primary heart accelerates to waking rhythm and my secondary heart begins its supporting beat. The air in my cell is recycled and cold, scrubbed clean of moisture and scent, sterile as a Medicaid facility. I place my feet on the stone floor, cold against skin that barely registers temperature anymore, and I stand. The ritual begins. First, the chains of contrition. I lift them from their hooks, 40 meters of blessed steel links, each bearing microscopic inscriptions of sins committed by the chapter since our founding. The combined weight is 370 kilograms, manageable for my enhanced frame but substantial enough to register. I drape them across my shoulders and back, the metal cold even through my black carapace implants, and I stand for the prescribed time of reflection, 60 seconds during which I am meant to contemplate my unworthiness. I do this. I have always done this. But lately, in the silence of that minute, I notice how the weight settles into familiar grooves in my flesh, how the skin has thickened there over the centuries, calloused and shaped by this exact burden repeated daily. I am not contemplating my sins, I am simply waiting for the minute to end. This troubles me, and I push the thought away. Next, the ablutions of denial. I strip and enter the cleansing chamber, where jets of near-freezing water mixed with caustic soap scour my skin. The soap smells of nothing. It is designed to remove scent, to leave us odorless as surgical instruments. I scrub methodically, starting from the scalp and working downward, the same pattern every morning, ingrained so deeply I could do it while unconscious. I watch the water circle the drain, slightly grey with dead skin and accumulated dust, and I try to remember the last time I looked at my own body with anything resembling curiosity or concern. Years, certainly. Perhaps decades. I am not beautiful, despite what the propaganda suggests. My skin is a patchwork of scar tissue and chemical burns, discolorations where rejuvenate treatments have been applied unevenly, pale expanses where nerve damage has killed sensation. My muscles are grotesque, swollen beyond human proportion, striations visible beneath the skin like ropes under canvas. My face, when I glimpse it in the polished steel of the chamber wall, is broad and brutal. The bone structure altered by osmodular implants, brow ridge pronounced, jaw too wide, eyes too far apart. I look like something carved from meat by an enthusiastic but unskilled sculptor. The chaplains call this transcendence. I call it nothing, because I am not supposed to notice. After ablutions come the stimulants. I return to my cell and open the small cabinet beside my sarcophagus, removing the syringe already prepared by the chapter serfs. The cocktail changes based on projected activity for the day, but always includes nootropics to enhance focus, mild psychotropics to suppress emotional variance, and loyalty conditioning agents whose specific chemistry I am not cleared to know. I inject into the port on my neck, feeling the cold spread of the fluid entering my bloodstream, and I count to 30 as my enhanced metabolism processes and distributes it. By the time I finish counting, the world has sharpened. Colors are slightly more vivid, sounds have more definition. My thoughts move faster, cleaner, arranged in neat tactical hierarchies. The vague unease I felt during the chains of contrition has evaporated. I feel focused, purposeful, ready. This is better, I tell myself. This is correct. I dress in my Under Armour body glove, then begin the 90-minute process of donning my armor with the assistance of 2 chapter serfs who enter silently, their eyes downcast, their movements practiced. They are old men, these serfs, augmetically enhanced to slow their aging but still visibly ancient, skin like parchment, hands trembling slightly despite nerve stabilizers. They have armored me for decades. I do not know their names. I have never asked. They fit each piece with reverent care, speaking the appropriate prayers as they seal joints and activate systems. I stand motionless as a statue, monitoring internal readouts as each armor segment links to my black carapace. The neural interface translating machine sensation into something my brain processes as extension of self. When the final seal clicks into place and my helmet locks onto the gorget, I am no longer Kael Voranis wearing armor. I am a weapon system in standby mode, waiting for activation. The serfs withdraw without speaking. I am alone again, encased in ceramite and plasteel, surrounded by recycled air that smells faintly of machine oil and my own filtered breath. I flex my hands inside the power armor gauntlets, testing response time, feeling the slight delay between thought and action that never quite disappears no matter how perfect the integration. This delay bothers me sometimes. It suggests separation between self and tool. It suggests there is still a self. I proceed to the reclusium for morning devotions. The walk takes 8 minutes through corridors I have traversed so many times I could navigate them blind. I pass other battle brothers, each alone, each silent, each moving with the same measured stride. We do not acknowledge each other. We do not make eye contact. We are not brothers in any meaningful sense. We are components of a machine, each operating independently until the machine requires assembly. I used to find this comforting. Lately it feels like drowning. The reclusium is a vast, domed chamber carved from a single asteroid fragment, its walls inscribed with every battle honor earned by the chapter since our founding in the dark days after the heresy. Chains hang from the ceiling in cascading curtains, thousands of them, their soft clink and rattle a constant susurrus that might be mistaken for whispers if you were foolish enough to imagine chains could speak. 352 of us gather here each morning, standing in precise formation, weapons mag-locked to armor, faces hidden behind helms. Chaplain Mordus stands at the altar, his skull helm gleaming in the light of braziers that burn with cold blue flames. He begins the litany of suffering. His voice is amplified by vox speakers embedded in his armor, each word echoing through the chamber with enough force to rattle the chains. We respond in unison, our voices merging into a single thunderous chorus that has no individual character, no personal inflection. We are one voice. We are the chapter speaking, through many mouths. I mouth the words automatically, their meaning lost through repetition, reduced to pure phonetics, divorced from semantics. Pain is purity, suffering is service, obedience is salvation. We recite these truths for 40 minutes while kneeling on the stone floor, our armor's weight distributed through knee joints that were never designed for this posture, the discomfort intentional and prescribed. When I was younger, a mere century into my service, I felt something during these recitations, a sense of purpose, perhaps, or belonging, or transcendence. Now, I feel nothing. The words are sounds, the pain is data, the ritual is procedure. When it ends and we rise as one, I wonder if the others feel the same hollow completion I do, this sense of having checked a box rather than communed with anything divine. I wonder this. And then I suppress the wondering, because the stimulants are still active, and they make it easy to push such thoughts into a compartment where they cannot interfere with function. We disperse to our assigned tasks. Mine, for this cycle, is training. The practice cages are deep in the monastery's lower sections, vast chambers with reinforced walls scarred by millennia of weapons fire and blade strikes. I am assigned 12 neophytes today, fresh from their final implantation surgeries, their bodies still adjusting to the changes, their minds still fragile with remnants of their former humanity. They stand in a ragged line when I enter, trying to mimic proper attention despite their obvious pain and confusion. They are all tall, all broad, all selected from the finest physical specimens their recruiting worlds could provide, but they are still children wearing the bodies of giants, still learning how to move without stumbling, still struggling to process sensory input through systems never meant for mortal flesh. I look at their faces, and I see the same face repeated 12 times with minor variations: earnest, frightened, determined, hopeful. They think this is the beginning of glory. They think they have been chosen for something magnificent. I know better. I know they are standing at the entrance to a cave that goes down and down forever, and by the time they reach the bottom they will not remember there was ever a surface to return to. I do not tell them this. Instead, I speak the prescribed training liturgy, my voice flat and emotionless through my helm's vox grill. I tell them they are weak. I tell them they are unworthy. I tell them their previous lives were meaningless, and only through pain and obedience will they earn the right to die for the Emperor. I tell them this because it is what I was told, because it is tradition, because the chaplains monitor these sessions, and deviation is corrected swiftly and painfully. The neophytes listen with wide eyes, their enhanced hearing catching every syllable, their minds filing my words away as sacred truth. We begin with basic combat drills. I demonstrate proper bolter stance, proper trigger discipline, proper breathing cadence between shots. They mimic me clumsily, their oversized fingers fumbling with training weapons scaled for their new proportions. One drops his bolter. The clatter echoes in the chamber like a prayer bell. Without thinking, I cross the distance between us in 3 strides and strike him across the face with the back of my gauntlet. His head snaps sideways and he falls, blood streaming from his nose and mouth. He does not cry out. They have already learned not to cry out. I feel nothing about this. The blow was calibrated precisely, hard enough to correct the mistake, but not hard enough to cause lasting damage. It was pedagogical violence, sanctioned and necessary. The neophyte rises, recovers his weapon, returns to position. His face is already swelling, but his eyes show only determination. Good, he is learning. In 6 months he will have forgotten this moment, the shame and pain subsumed into the general texture of training, indistinguishable from 10,000 other corrections. We drill for 6 hours without break. The neophytes move from awkward to slightly less awkward, their muscle memory beginning to form, their enhanced physiology allowing learning speeds that would be impossible for baseline humans. I watch them, and I try to remember my own training, but the memories are vague and contradictory, overlaid with so many subsequent training cycles that I cannot distinguish my original experience from the countless times I have observed or conducted similar drills. Was I this clumsy? Did I bleed this much? Did I look at my instructor with the same desperate hope that he would approve of me, acknowledge me, tell me I was doing well? I do not tell them they are doing well. At the cycle's end, I dismiss them without comment. They file out, limping slightly, their bodies screaming protests their minds have been conditioned to ignore. I watch them go and I notice I have already forgotten 3 of their names. Despite having drilled them into memory at the start of the session, their faces blur together in my recollection, generic and interchangeable. In a month, most of them will wash out, their bodies rejecting implants or their minds breaking under psycho-conditioning. Those who survive will join the scout company, and in 10 years, if they live that long, they might earn the right to wear proper power armor. In 20 years, they might be promoted to full battle brother status. In 30 years, they will stand where I stand now, training another batch of neophytes, having forgotten what it felt like to be one. This is the cycle. This is the machine. I return to my cell for the midday meditation period, 2 hours of enforced stillness during which we are meant to review our actions and purge ourselves of pride or doubt. I kneel before the small shrine in the corner, a simple iron aquila mounted on the wall, and I try to pray. The words come automatically, muscle memory of the vocal cords, but I am not present in them. My mind wanders despite the stimulants, despite my training, despite every safeguard meant to prevent exactly this kind of drift. I think about the neophyte I struck. I think about his face before the blow, young and open, and his face after, closed and hard. I think about how I created that change, how I am part of the mechanism that transforms children into weapons. I think about how this is necessary, how the Imperium needs us, how without the Adeptus Astartes humanity would have been swallowed by Xenos and Chaos millennia ago. I think about how this justification feels true and false simultaneously, how it sits in my mind like a stone that is somehow also hollow. These thoughts are dangerous. I recognize them as dangerous. I should report them to Chaplain Mordus, submit to corrective conditioning, allow the chapter to smooth away these rough edges before they become cracks. But I do not. I keep the thoughts private, hidden, a small act of rebellion so minor it barely qualifies as defiance. I tell myself I will report them later. I tell myself they are temporary aberrations caused by fatigue or imbalanced stimulant dosing. I tell myself many things, and I believe none of them. The afternoon brings combat exercises. My squad, 9th Squad of the 4th Company, is assigned assault drills in the shipbreaker yards, a section of the monastery where captured enemy vessels are dismantled for study and salvage. The environment is intentionally chaotic, jagged metal protrusions, unstable floors, poor lighting, areas of hard vacuum alternating with pockets of toxic atmosphere. We move through it in full armor, live ammunition loaded, training against servitor targets programmed to simulate orc behavior patterns. There are 9 of us, though we are supposed to be 10. Brother Castiel was lost 3 months ago on Morsus IV, torn apart by a chaos spawn that caught him during a void shield failure. We have not replaced him. We do not speak about him. His armor was recovered, sanctified, and stored in the armory. His gene seed was extracted and placed in cryo storage. His name was added to the reclusium walls, This is how we process loss. Efficiently, completely, without grief, because grief is weakness and we are not permitted weakness. I lead the squad through the exercise, hand signals only, Vox silence maintained. We breach bulkheads, clear compartments, eliminate targets with clinical precision. My squad moves like a single organism, each member anticipating the other's actions through centuries of shared combat. Brother Thane covers my left approach angles without being asked. Brother Lucian advances exactly 3.5 seconds after I signal. Not before, not after. Brother Corvus maintains overwatch from elevated positions, his sniper rifle eliminating threats before they can engage the squad. We are perfect, we are synchronized, we are exactly what we are meant to be. And it feels like nothing. I execute a servitor with a headshot at 40 meters and I feel no satisfaction. I coordinate a flanking maneuver that eliminates 6 targets without casualties and I feel no pride. I watch my brothers perform flawlessly and I feel no camaraderie. I am observing myself from a distance, watching a weapon system operate within acceptable parameters, and I cannot locate the person who is supposed to be doing the observing. I am the action and the observer simultaneously, and neither position feels real. The exercise concludes after 4 hours. We police our ammunition, perform equipment checks, and return to the armory in silence. The serfs remove our armor with the same ritual care they applied during donning. I stand naked in the disrobing chamber, my body steaming slightly in the cool air, and I look down at my hands. They are enormous, scarred, the knuckles enlarged from repeated trauma. They do not look like hands that should belong to a person. They look like tools shaped for specific functions. Grip, strike, crush. I flex them experimentally, and I cannot remember the last time I used them for anything gentle. Did I ever hold something fragile? Did I ever touch another person with care? The memory surfaces unbidden, probably dislodged by the day's stimulant combination. I am 8 years old, maybe 9, in the underhive. I am holding something small and warm. A kitten, I think, or a rat pup, some tiny creature that radiated heat and heartbeat. I held it carefully, cupped in both hands, feeling its rapid pulse against my palms. I remember being amazed that something so small could be alive, that life could be contained in such a fragile package. I remember wanting to protect it. I do not remember what happened to it. The memory ends there, cut off, probably suppressed during psycho-conditioning because such sentimentality serves no tactical purpose. I stand in the disrobing chamber holding my hands in front of my face, trying to recreate the sensation of that small, warm weight, and I cannot. My hands are too large now, too hard. They would crush such a thing without meaning to. They are calibrated for war and nothing else. This realization should not bother me. It does anyway. Evening brings the Feast of Ashes, our single daily meal. We gather in the refectory, 352 of us, seated at long tables of bare stone, and we consume our rations in silence. The meal is identical every day, a nutrient paste designed by apothecaries to provide optimal sustenance for our enhanced metabolism, supplemented by communion wafers that contain trace amounts of gene seed material to reinforce our biological connection to the chapter. The paste tastes like nothing, which is intentional. Flavor is pleasure, and pleasure is weakness. I eat mechanically, spooning the paste into my mouth, swallowing without chewing. Around me, my battle brothers do the same, hundreds of identical gestures repeated simultaneously, a disturbing synchronization that no one else seems to notice. I scan the refectory, and I see the same face repeated hundreds of times. Slight variations in scarring and bone structure, but fundamentally identical in its brutal emptiness. We are copies of copies, reproductions of a template designed 10,000 years ago, and whatever made us individuals has been worn away by repetition until only the template remains. I look down at my plate, and the paste has taken on a grey tone that makes me think of ash, though its color has not actually changed. I think about how we call this the Feast of Ashes, how even our single meal is framed as penance rather than sustenance, how we are not allowed to enjoy even the basic biological necessity of eating. I think about how I have consumed this exact meal approximately 126,000 times, and I cannot remember a single instance that stands out from any other. They have all collapsed into one eternal meal, one endless repetition of the same empty ritual. I am doing it again, the dangerous thinking, the noticing. I force myself to finish the meal. I stand with the others when the chaplain rings the bell. We file out in silence and return to our cells. The evening stretches ahead, 4 hours of personal time before the sleeping cycle, hours we are meant to spend in prayer or weapons maintenance or study of tactical manuals. I do these things. I have always done these things. Tonight I do something different. I access my personal data slate, a battered piece of equipment I have carried for 2 centuries, and I begin reviewing my combat logs. The chapter maintains exhaustive records of every engagement, every kill, every tactical decision made by every battle brother. My record is substantial. 347 years of service, 219 confirmed campaigns, approximately 87,000 verified kills, 16 wounds serious enough to require extended medical intervention, 42 commendations for valor, 0 disciplinary incidents. I scroll through the entries, reading summaries of battles I participated in but cannot remember. Pacification of Hive Primus on Talan VII. 18,000 insurgents eliminated. Xenos incursion on Guardius Station. 463 Genestealers purged. Chaos cult suppression on Mortilex. Population reduced from 12 million to compliance threshold of 3 million. The numbers blur together, each campaign indistinguishable from the others, each location a name attached to kill counts and tactical outcomes, but devoid of sensory memory or emotional content. I was there. I know I was there because the logs say so, because my armor's machine spirit recorded my biosigns at those coordinates during those time periods. But I do not remember being there. I do not remember faces or voices or the smell of burning cities. I remember the actions, can visualize the tactical situations, but they feel like something that happened to someone else, like history I studied rather than events I participated in. When did I stop remembering? I search backward through the logs, looking for the last campaign I can actually recall with any clarity. I find it 6 years ago, the suppression of a worker rebellion on Genna Primus. I remember that one because something unusual happened. A child, maybe 7 years old, ran out from a barricade directly toward my position. She was screaming, but I could not hear the words through my helmet's audio filters, which were set to reduce ambient noise below combat-relevant thresholds. She had something in her hands, small and dark. Threat assessment protocols flagged her as probable explosive device carrier, suicide bomber, 93% probability based on behavioral pattern analysis and local tactical situation. I shot her from 15 meters, mass reactive round to center mass, and she came apart like something made of wet paper. I remember this because after she exploded, tiny fragments of what she had been carrying scattered across the rubble field, not explosives, bread, hard ration biscuits that the rebellious workers had been hoarding. She had been bringing food to someone, probably her family, probably hiding nearby, and my shot had not only killed her but destroyed the food as well. I remember standing there for a moment, maybe 2 seconds, looking at those scattered crumbs mixed with her blood and tissue. I remember thinking that she had not been a threat, that my assessment had been wrong, that I had killed a child for carrying bread. I remember feeling something sharp and terrible trying to form in my chest, some emotion that had no name. Then Brother Sergeant Malchus, my squad leader at the time, voxed me to stop standing like a statue and maintain advance. The moment ended. I moved forward. The feeling dissipated, smoothed away by training and stimulants and the sheer momentum of the engagement. We completed the suppression. Compliance was restored. 17,000 workers were culled to encourage cooperation among survivors. I received a commendation for maintaining fire discipline under ambiguous conditions. I never thought about the girl again until tonight. I sit in my cell staring at the data slate screen, seeing her explode repeatedly in my mind's eye, the image somehow more vivid now than it was in the moment. I see the breadcrumbs settling into the blood. I see her small body torn into fragments too small to be called human. I see my own armored form standing there, weapon still raised, utterly unmoved. I was not wrong, according to protocols. She matched the threat profile. My response was appropriate. I followed doctrine perfectly. This is what we do. This is what we are for. But she was carrying bread. I closed the data slate. My hands are shaking very slightly. Tremor so minor it would not be visible to baseline human perception, but obvious to my enhanced kinesthetics. This is wrong. I should not be shaking. I should not be thinking about a single child among millions of casualties accumulated over centuries of service. I should not be questioning doctrine. These are symptoms of psychological compromise, the first signs of the doubt sickness that claims Astartes who serve too long without proper conditioning reinforcement. I should report to Chaplain Mordus immediately. I do not. Instead, I kneel before my shrine and I try to pray, but the words stick in my throat like broken glass. I cannot make myself say them. I cannot pretend I believe them. I kneel there in silence for an hour, maybe longer, and I feel something cracking inside me that I did not know was brittle. The sleeping cycle arrives. I enter my sarcophagus and activate the restraints. They close around my limbs with familiar precision, locking me in place, preventing any movement during the chemically induced unconsciousness the chapter calls rest. The lid descends, sealing me in darkness. The sedative mixture begins flowing through injection ports in the restraints, fast-acting compounds that will render me unconscious in 17 seconds. I count them. 17, 16, 15. I try to remember my mother's face. 14, 13, 12. I cannot. 11, 10, 9. I try to remember my original name. 8, 7, 6, nothing. 5, 4, 3. I wonder if the person I was would recognize the thing I have become. 2, 1. Darkness. I wake to the same sequence. Restraints release. Hearts accelerate. Feet on cold stone. The chains of contrition. The ablutions of denial. The stimulant injection spreading cold purpose through my veins. The armor fitted by silent serfs. The walk to morning devotions, where 352 identical figures recite words that mean nothing. But today something is different. Today I notice. I notice the way Chaplain Mordus's voice sounds almost bored as he recites the litany of suffering, his words rote and mechanical despite the vox amplification. I notice the way the battle brothers around me sway slightly in formation. Tiny movements of fatigue or discomfort they are too well trained to consciously register. I notice the chains hanging from the ceiling, thousands of them, and I wonder who maintains them, who ensures they do not tangle or corrode, whether there is some chapter serf whose entire existence is devoted to chain maintenance. I wonder if he thinks about it. I wonder if he notices the absurdity. These thoughts should not be occurring. The stimulants should have smoothed them away. But they persist, growing louder, like a Vox channel opening that has been closed for centuries. The day proceeds in its predetermined pattern. Training with neophytes, who look even more generic than yesterday's batch, their faces already blurring into the same composite image. I strike one for fumbling a reload, my gauntlet connecting with precisely calibrated force, and I wonder why I struck him. Not tactically. I understand the tactical reason. But why do I personally care whether he fumbles? Why does his inadequacy require violence from me? What is the actual mechanism by which hitting children makes them better warriors? I do not have an answer. Combat exercises in the afternoon. My squad moves through another training environment, this time a simulated hive city interior, narrow corridors, civilian obstacles, servitor targets dressed in rags to simulate insurgent populations. We clear room after room with perfect efficiency. I put rounds through 73 targets, headshots at ranges from 3 to 85 meters, every shot a kill. My squad eliminates 238 targets without taking any damage. We are flawless. I feel nothing. No, that is not accurate. I feel the absence of feeling, which is not the same as feeling nothing. I am aware that something should be present here, some sense of accomplishment or satisfaction or tribal unity with my squad. The awareness of absence is itself a feeling, hollow and strange. After the exercise, during the disrobing ritual, Brother Thane speaks to me. This is unusual. We do not speak outside of tactical necessity. He removes his helmet, and his face is like my face, broad and brutal. One eye replaced with an augmetic, scars cutting white lines through grey skin. He looks at me with that artificial eye, and he says, "You hesitated during the 4th floor breach. 2.3 seconds. Why?" His voice is flat, curious only in the technical sense, seeking data to improve performance. There is no judgment in it. There is nothing in it at all. I realize he is right. I did hesitate. There had been a servitor target dressed as a child, small frame, civilian clothing, and for 2.3 seconds I had not fired. My targeting reticle had been locked on center mass, and my finger had been on the trigger, and I had not squeezed. Then I had, and the target had gone down, but the hesitation had occurred. I say, momentary glitch in target acquisition, visual similarity to non-threat entity from previous engagement, will not recur. Brother Thane nods, accepting this explanation without question. He turns away, the conversation over, but before he goes he says, "The apothecaries can adjust your nootropic balance if you are experiencing recognition artifacts. It is nothing to be ashamed of. I had similar issues after my 4th century. They corrected it." He walks away. I stand in the disrobing chamber watching him go, and I think about what he said. Recognition artifacts. A clinical term for remembering things that make you hesitate. A problem to be corrected, smoothed away, deleted from the system. He had it. They fixed it. Now he does not remember remembering. Is that what I want? To not remember the girl with the bread? To not notice the emptiness? To not feel the hollow ache of 347 years of service that have worn away everything that was not useful for killing? I do not know. That night I skipped the Feast of Ashes. This is not strictly forbidden, but it is abnormal, deviation from pattern. I return to my cell instead, and I stand before the shrine without kneeling. I look at the iron aquila, and I try to feel reverence or devotion, or even just habit. I feel nothing. It is a piece of metal bolted to a wall. It represents an idea I have been told is sacred. I have killed hundreds of thousands of people in service to this idea. I cannot remember why. I access my data slate again. I search for records of Absalom Prime, my homeworld, looking for anything that might trigger memories of my original life. The files are sparse. Absalom Prime is an unremarkable hive world, population 14 billion, tithe grade moderate, compliance status stable. There are no images, there is no cultural data. There is only classification information and export statistics. My homeworld has been reduced to a few paragraphs of administrative text. I search for records of the recruitment trial that brought me here. These files are more detailed. I was selected at age 11, physically superior specimen, high aggression markers, adequate psychological plasticity. I underwent preliminary trials that killed 87% of candidates. I survived implantation surgeries that killed 40% of survivors. I endured psycho-conditioning that broke 30% of remaining candidates. I emerged 10 years later as a scout, and 10 years after that as a full battle brother, and now, 3 centuries later, I am a brother sergeant training the next generation of children to undergo the same process. At what point did I stop being the person I was and become this? The data does not say. I close the slate. I walk to the small mirror mounted on my cell wall, polished steel, scratched and pitted with age. I look at my face. It is not the face of the boy from the underhive. That boy had brown eyes. My eyes are pale gray, a side effect of enhanced optical implants. That boy had soft features, childhood fat, smooth skin. My face is all hard planes and scar tissue, bone structure altered by osmodular, skin damaged by chemical exposure and radiation. That boy smiled sometimes, I think, or at least could have if he chose to. I have forgotten how to move the muscles required for smiling. I am not him, he is not me. We are connected by continuity of consciousness, by the thread of memory that links each moment to the next, but we are not the same entity. He died so I could exist, and I do not know if that exchange was worth it. This is doubt. This is the sickness. This is what Chaplain Mordus warns against in his sermons, the poison of introspection, the weakness of questioning. I know I should report it. I know the chapter will correct it. I know they will smooth away these thoughts, and I will wake up tomorrow feeling focused and purposeful again, ready to serve without question. But if they smooth it away, if they delete this doubt, is enter that not the same as killing the last fragment of that boy? Is that not a final death, the extinguishing of the last spark that says I am someone rather than something? I do not want to die again. I have served for 347 years, and I do not want to serve anymore, not like this, not as a weapon that has forgotten it was ever a person. But I do not know how to stop. The machine keeps running whether I consent or not. I wake and train and fight and sleep and wake again, and the cycle will continue until I fall in battle or my body finally fails. And even then my gene seed will be harvested and implanted in another child who will become another weapon, who will eventually notice what I notice now. This is what we are. This is the truth beneath the propaganda. We are not heroes. We are not angels. We are children mutilated into weapons and fed stimulants to keep us from noticing what has been done to us. We are slaves who have forgotten slavery, tools that believe they are wielders, victims who have Stockholm syndromed themselves into loving their captors. And the Imperium needs us. That is the terrible part. Without us, humanity would fall. The threats are real. The Xenos are real. Chaos is real. Our service saves billions of lives, preserves worlds, maintains the Imperium across a galaxy of horrors. Our suffering has purpose. Our sacrifice matters. Does that make it right? I do not know. I am a weapon. I am not qualified to answer philosophical questions, but I cannot stop asking them. The days blur together after that. I go through the motions. I attend devotions and training and combat exercises. I consume my stimulants and perform my duties without error. But I am splitting in two, the obedient soldier continuing his routine while something beneath him screams and thrashes and tries desperately to remember what it was like to be human. The neophytes blur together until I cannot distinguish them from previous batches. I strike them when they fail, and I watch the hope drain from their faces, and I hate myself for being part of the machine that devours children. But I do not stop. I never stop. My squad notices something is wrong. They do not mention it directly, but I catch them watching me, slight turns of the head, longer than necessary eye contact. Brother Thane suggests again that I speak to the apothecaries. Brother Corvus asks if I am experiencing pain, his tone suggesting he would report it if I said yes. I tell them I am fine. They accept this because we are not trained to recognize lies, because honesty is assumed among battle brothers, because the idea that one of us might hide internal malfunction is not something the chapter has prepared us to expect. I am a ghost in my own life, going through rituals that feel increasingly like theater. I lift the chains of contrition and I think about how they are just metal. I recite the litanies and I think about how they are just words. I inject the stimulants and I wonder what would happen if I stopped. Would I go insane? Would I remember everything, all the children killed, all the cities burned, all the centuries of service accumulated into one crushing weight? Or would I simply feel, finally, like a person again, even if that person was broken? I do not find out because I am not brave enough to refuse the stimulants. I am not brave enough to resist. I am a coward who has spent 3 centuries pretending to be a hero, and now that the mask is slipping, I lack the courage to tear it off completely. 3 weeks after my crisis begins, we receive deployment orders. The 4th Company is being sent to Chronos Secundus, an industrial world in the Segmentum Tempestus, to suppress a worker rebellion that has disrupted adamantium production. The rebellion has been ongoing for 2 months. Initial guard regiments unable to restore order, local PDF forces compromised by insurrectionist sympathizers. The situation is described as critical. The Imperium requires Chronos Secundus's output. The workers must be brought to compliance. We are told the rebellion is chaos-tainted, that cultists have infiltrated the workforce, that heretical symbols have been found in the habitation sectors. This framing is standard. Every rebellion is chaos-tainted once it becomes serious enough to require Astartes' intervention. Whether this is actually true or merely convenient justification is never clear. It does not matter. Our orders are to pacify the planet. We will pacify the planet. The transit takes 6 weeks aboard the strike cruiser Emperor's Reproach. 6 weeks in which I share quarters with my squad in a dormitory that smells of recycled air and gun oil. 6 weeks during which we train in the ship's practice ranges, attend devotions in the ship's chapel, consume our stimulants on schedule. 6 weeks during which I descend deeper into my own head, watching my body perform all the correct actions while my mind screams silently. Brother Thane approaches me during the 4th week of transit. We are in the practice range, post-training, servitors clearing target debris. He stands beside me, both of us still in full armor, and he says quietly, "You are not reporting for conditioning, are you?" It is not a question. It is a statement of fact delivered without judgment, curiosity only. I say nothing. He continues, "I understand. I was stationed on the Redemption Crusade during my 3rd century. We cleansed 14 systems. 3.6 billion casualties. When it was over, I could not stop seeing their faces. All of them, stacked in my memory like bodies in a mass grave. The apothecaries offered conditioning. I refused for 2 months. I wanted to remember. I thought I owed them that much. Remembering." He pauses. His augmetic eye whirs softly, adjusting focus on something I cannot see. Then we deployed again. New war zone, new enemies. And I realized the dead were interfering with my ability to fight effectively. I was hesitating, missing shots, endangering my squad, so I went to the apothecaries. They smoothed it away, all of it. I do not remember those faces anymore. I do not remember why I wanted to remember. I just know that I function better now. Another pause. You will come to the same conclusion. Everyone does. The alternative is to break, and broken battle brothers are mercy killed for the good of the chapter. So eventually you will choose function, or you will choose death. Those are the only options. He walks away. The conversation is over. I stand in the practice range surrounded by servitors and scattered target fragments, and I think about what he said. Function or death. Those are the options. Continue being a weapon or stop being anything at all. He is right. He is obviously right. But rightness does not make it hurt less. We arrive at Chronos Secundus on the 1st day of the 7th week. The planet is a gray sphere wrapped in industrial haze. Surface temperature maintained at optimal factory efficiency, population of 900 million crammed into habitation sectors adjacent to the production zones. From orbit, it looks like a tumor, swollen and discolored, veined with transport lines and cooling channels. We deploy via drop pods. Standard orbital insertion. 4th company splitting into combat squads with assigned sectors. My squad is designated Hammer 9, assigned to Manufactorum District 7, coordinates transmitted during descent. The drop pod screams through atmosphere, external temperature climbing to 3,000 degrees, G-forces compressing my organs despite my enhanced physiology. I have done this hundreds of times. It has never felt routine. The primal mammal part of my brain that survived all the surgeries still registers falling from orbit as death. Still floods my system with adrenaline despite knowing rationally that I will survive. We hit the ground hard, retro thrusters firing milliseconds before impact. Massive deceleration that would pulp a baseline human. The pod's hatches blow outward with explosive bolts, and we exit in tactical formation, weapons hot, scanning for threats. The air smells like burning oil and unwashed bodies. The sky is the color of old bruises, light filtering through pollution hazes. We have landed in a factory courtyard, massive structures rising around us, pipes and catwalks and towering smokestacks that vomit black clouds. The ground is covered in ash and metal shavings. Bodies are scattered nearby, maybe 20 of them, workers who were in the courtyard when we landed, killed by the impact shockwave or the explosive hatch deployment. They were not targets, they were just in the way. Nobody comments on them. We advance toward our objective, a manufactorum control center 3 kilometers into the district. Intelligence reports say this is where the rebellion's leadership is coordinating, where they are broadcasting propaganda to other districts, where they must be eliminated to break worker morale. Standard decapitation strike. The streets are narrow for our bulk, designed for baseline humans and cargo servitors. We move in column formation, weapons scanning rooflines and windows. The buildings are identical grey rockcrete blocks, thousands of them, habitation units stacked like boxes, tiny windows dark or broken. Some have cloth hangings that might be flags or laundry. Some have graffiti in local dialect, words I do not understand. We encounter the first resistance 400 meters from our landing zone. 50 or 60 workers armed with improvised weapons, auto guns stolen from PDF armories, industrial tools converted into clubs and spears. They have erected a barricade across the street, scrap metal welded together, firing positions behind it. They see us coming and they open fire, bullets pinging off our armor, harmless as rain. Clear them, I vox to my squad. We open fire. Bolters roar, mass reactive rounds tearing through the barricade and the bodies behind it. The workers come apart like dolls, explosive decompression turning flesh into red mist. The barricade collapses. We advance through the debris without slowing. The engagement took 11 seconds. I scan the aftermath as we pass. The workers are dead, obviously, torn into fragments too small to identify. But near the barricade there are other bodies, smaller ones, children maybe, or just small adults. It is hard to tell. They are wearing civilian clothing, rags mostly, and they are holding things. Banners, signs, words written on scrap cloth. I read one as we pass. The letters are crude, handwritten in something that might be paint or blood. It says, "We are hungry." That is all. 3 words. We are hungry. I keep walking. My squad keeps walking. We have advanced 15 meters past the barricade before I realize I have stopped processing tactical data. My vision has tunneled. My audio filters have dampened to near silence. I am seeing only that sign, those 3 words, playing on loop in my mind's eye. We are hungry. Brother Sergeant? Brother Thane voxes. Your biosigns show elevated stress response. Are you compromised? I force my attention back to tactical data. Negative. Continuing advance. We proceed. We encounter more barricades. We clear them. More workers die, dozens, then hundreds. They keep fighting, even though it is suicide, even though their weapons cannot hurt us, even though they must know they cannot win. They fight anyway, because they have nothing else left. We reach the control center. It is a fortified structure, reinforced doors, firing positions, maybe 200 defenders inside. They have welded the doors shut and are firing through gun ports, concentrated volleys that might damage lighter armor but only scratch our ceramite. Standard siege situation. Brother Lucien plants melter charges on the main door, while the rest of us provide suppressing fire. The charges detonate with brilliant white heat, turning metal into vapor. We breach before the smoke clears, advancing into the interior. The defenders try to hold the entrance. They die. We advance down corridors, clearing rooms methodically. The resistance is determined but futile. These are workers, not soldiers. They have courage but no training. They bunch up in choke points. They waste ammunition on suppressing fire. They make every tactical mistake possible, and we exploit every one. We reach the command center on the 3rd floor. 20 people inside. mix of workers and what might be PDF deserters clustered around communications equipment. They turn when we enter, weapons rising, but they do not fire. They just look at us with expressions I cannot read. Fear, certainly, but also something else. Resignation, maybe, or contempt. One of them, an old man with burn scars covering half his face, says, "We just wanted food. That is all." The quotas were impossible, and they kept increasing, and people were starving, and we just wanted food. His voice is hoarse, damaged, maybe by chemical exposure. He is not pleading. He is explaining, like he thinks we might care, like he thinks there is some appeal that might work. I look at him. I try to see him as a person, to register him as an individual rather than a target, but my training is too deep. I see threat assessment data overlaying his body, optimal shot placement markers appearing on his torso, probability calculations about whether he is wearing explosives under his clothing. I cannot see him. I can only see the target. Emperor's mercy, I say, which is the formula. It is what we are supposed to say. I shoot him in the head. His skull comes apart. The others die in the next 2 seconds, my squad firing simultaneously, 9 bolters eliminating 20 targets with surgical precision. It is over. We destroy the communications equipment and set incendiary charges to deny the structure to remaining rebels. We exit and Vox extraction, our part of the mission complete. Other squads are still clearing their sectors, but our objectives are accomplished. We wait in the courtyard for extraction, standing among the bodies we killed during our advance. There are hundreds of them now, maybe more. The ash has turned red in places where blood has pooled. The air smells like cooked meat and voided bowels. Standard post-combat environment. I look at the bodies and I try to feel something. Satisfaction at mission completion. Pride at effective performance. Even just professional neutrality. I feel nothing. No, that is wrong again. I feel the absence. I feel the place where feeling should be, hollow and aching. Brother Corvus approaches me, mag-locking his sniper rifle. Clean operation, 0 casualties. 17 minutes from insertion to objective completion. Excellent time. I nod. This is the correct response. This is success. But I am looking at a body near my feet, a woman maybe, hard to tell after the bolter round, and next to her is a small bundle wrapped in cloth. I nudge it with my boot, and the cloth falls away, and it is a child, infant, maybe 6 months old. It was not shot, it was not injured. It just died of exposure, probably, or starvation, lying in the street wrapped in cloth while its mother fought at a barricade. We are hungry. The extraction Thunderhawk arrives, engines screaming, downdraft scattering ash and debris. We board and ascend, the city falling away beneath us, smoke and fire visible across multiple districts where other squads are still engaged. From altitude, Kronos Secundus looks peaceful, geometric and orderly, the violence too small to register at this scale. We return to the Emperor's reproach. We disarm and disrobe. We attend debriefing where the captain reviews our performance and notes our efficiency. We are commended. We are exemplary. We are exactly what the chapter needs. That night, I sit in my quarters and I try to calculate how many people I have killed. The data is available, but the numbers are too large to conceptualize. 87,000 confirmed kills, individual targets I personally eliminated. But that does not include collateral casualties, does not include orbital bombardments I coordinated, does not include cities that burned because my squad called in fire support. If I include those, the number climbs toward millions. Multiple millions, probably. I have killed more people than most baseline humans will ever meet. I have ended more lives than some plagues. I am a weapon of mass destruction wearing the shape of a man. And I do not remember most of them. The girl with the bread, the workers on Kronos Secundus. These I remember, right now, in this moment. But in a week or a month, they will fade into the general texture of service, indistinguishable from 10,000 other kills, forgotten so completely it will be as though they never existed. This is what we are. This is the truth. We are memory holes in power armor. We are amnesia engines. We kill and forget and kill again. An endless cycle. And the forgetting is not a bug but a feature, carefully engineered through stimulants and conditioning so we can function without breaking. And it is necessary. That is what makes it unforgivable. It is necessary. Without us, the Imperium falls. Without us, humanity dies. Our crimes are justified by their necessity. We are monsters in service to survival. We are evil in service to a greater good that may not actually exist, but that we must believe in because the alternative is to admit we have done these things for nothing. I report to Chaplain Mordus the next morning. I enter his chamber, a sparse room lit by candles that smell of sacred oils, and I kneel before him. He stands above me in his skull helm, icon of death incarnate, and he waits for me to speak. I say, "I am experiencing doubt, Lord Chaplain." He does not respond immediately. The silence stretches. Then he says, "Describe the nature of your doubt, Brother Sergeant." I tell him about the girl with the bread. I tell him about the workers on Chronos Secundus. I tell him about the hollow feeling, the sense of being a weapon that has forgotten it was a person. I tell him about 347 years of service that feel increasingly like elaborate suicide. I tell him everything, words spilling out in a confession I did not know I needed to make. When I finish, he is quiet again. Then he removes his helm, an uncommon gesture, and I see his face for the first time in decades. It is not what I expected. It is old, incredibly old, skin like crumpled paper, eyes sunken and dark. He must be 500 years old, maybe more, ancient beyond imagining for an Astartes. He says, "Do you know how old I am, Brother Sergeant?" I shake my head. 632 years. I have served longer than most, remember is possible. I have forgotten more battles than you have fought. I have crushed more doubts than you have had thoughts. Do you know what I have learned in all that time? He waits. I do not answer. Nothing. I have learned nothing. The doubt never goes away. You simply get better at ignoring it. The hollowness you feel? That is correct. That is accurate. We are hollow. We are weapons. We have been emptied of everything except function. This is not a flaw. This is design. The Emperor made us this way because humanity needs weapons more than it needs heroes. He steps closer, his ancient face level with mine, his eyes searching mine like he is looking for something specific. You think you are the first to notice? You think you are unique in your crisis of faith? Every brother who serves past his second century has this moment. Most choose conditioning. They smooth it away and continue serving until they die. Some choose differently. They malfunction. They refuse orders. They are executed. A very few, a precious few, come to me as you have, seeking guidance. He places his hand on my shoulder, a gesture so unexpected I almost flinch. I will tell you what I tell them. You are correct in your assessment. We are monsters. We are slaves. We are victims of a process that devours children and produces killing machines. Everything you think is true, but it is also true that we are necessary. Both things are true simultaneously. This is the paradox we must carry. He removes his hand. I can offer you conditioning. The apothecaries will smooth away your doubt, and you will wake up tomorrow feeling purposeful again. Or you can carry this knowledge with you for the rest of your service, feeling every kill, remembering every face, until the weight either crushes you or makes you into something stronger than simple weapons. Most choose forgetting. It is easier. It is kinder. But a few choose to remember. I cannot tell you which is correct. I can only tell you the choice is yours. He puts his helm back on, becoming icon again, death personified. Report your decision within 3 days. Until then, you are removed from active duty, dismissed. I leave his chamber. I walk the corridors of the fortress monastery. I pass battle brothers going about their routines, each one a weapon that has forgotten it was a person, or that remembers and has chosen to continue anyway. I think about the choice, forgetting or remembering, function or awareness. slavery accepted or slavery resisted from within. I think about 347 years of service and wonder if I have the strength for another 300 carrying this weight. I think about the neophytes I train, their hopeful faces, and wonder if I am doing them mercy or cruelty by teaching them to be weapons. I think about the girl with the bread and the workers who were hungry and the millions I have killed whose names I never learned and never will. I think about whether there is any meaningful difference between being a monster who knows what he is and being a monster who does not. 3 days later, I return to Chaplain Mordus. I kneel before him and I say, "I will remember." He nods slowly. "Then you will suffer. Every day. Until death or madness claims you. You understand this?" "Yes." "Why? Why choose this?" I have no good answer. I search for one and find only fragments, pieces of reasoning that do not quite cohere. Finally I say, because someone should remember them, even if it is only me, even if it changes nothing. Someone should carry the weight. He is silent for a long moment. Then he says, "That is the most human thing I have heard in a century. Very well. You will continue your service without conditioning. I will monitor you. If you become compromised, if you endanger the chapter, I will execute you myself. Do you accept these terms?" "Yes, Lord Chaplain." "Then return to duty. May the Emperor have mercy on you, Brother Sergeant, because I do not think you will have mercy on yourself." I leave his chamber. I return to my cell. I kneel before the iron aquila and I try to pray, but the words still stick in my throat. Instead, I sit in silence, feeling the weight of 347 years pressing down on me like the chains of contrition, and I accept it. I accept that I am a monster. I accept that I will continue to be a monster. I accept that nothing I do will redeem the things I have done or will do. But I will remember. I will carry them with me, all the faces, all the names I never learned, all the crimes committed in the Emperor's name. I will carry them until I break or die, and perhaps that is not redemption, but it is something. It is witness, it is acknowledgement, it is the only dignity I can offer them. I am Brother Sergeant Kyle Voranis of the Angels Penitent, and I have served for 347 years. I will probably serve for 300 more. I will train neophytes and lead squads and kill in the Emperor's name. I will do these things because they are necessary and because I am too much of a coward to refuse. But I will do them with my eyes open. I will remember. That will have to be enough.